What exactly is it that we're looking at with this 2024 iteration of the Kansas City Chiefs? I know I'm not the only one who is asking this question. It's confusing. The Chiefs are 10-1. They have the best record in the NFL, tied with the Lions, but you tie at number 1. The next team is number 3. So they have the best record in the NFL, but in super unconvincing fashion. Well, I'm going to do my best to try to add some context to this with today's video. And I'm going to start with a personal story, an anecdote from my own life, sort of the way that this season feels and why it feels that way. When I was in the 8th grade, I was kind of a dunderhead. I wasn't very good at anything. I wasn't the most fastidious student. I was not really in with any friend group, anything like that. I'm just kind of a loner, right? And it happened that during the math portion of the day, I had fallen into a friend group, me and 2 other guys. And that was the lunch hour. And all 3 of us, we weren't great students, and we were kind of screw-arounds. And the 8th grade is still a time in life where math is learnable. It's not all super confusing where if you don't get it, you're just toast. You can learn it if you spend a little bit of time with it. So the 3 of us would go to lunch, and we'd just make fun of things. And the most recent thing to make fun of was math class. And we kind of started picking it up bit by bit. And all of a sudden, we were pretty good at math, all 3 of us. Until one day, the teacher called us all 3 into the hallway because we had been dunderheads. And all of a sudden, we're getting A's in the class. And she asked us if we were cheating. Of course, we were. Everyone was, but just on the homework section because the teacher said, hey, you're going to grade your homework yourself. But we were doing well on the tests. And it was just because we had picked it up with each other, and we were all sort of offended. How dare you think that we are too stupid to understand math? What it was, what it had been, was that we were classically disengaged. That's why we weren't doing too well. And we were all kind of off-put by it. But we still kept our heads down, were working along things, and a couple weeks later, she pulled all 3 of us out into the hallway again and asked us if we wanted to take an advanced mathematics course, a course that was very much harder. And all 3 of us, kind of collectively, because we had about 3 wits between the 3 of us, asked, well, will this get us high school credit? And the teacher said, no, it's just an advanced math class. It's not a high school math class. It's just an advanced math class. And each one of us told her no. And then she was the one who was offended. That's kind of how this season feels as a Kansas City Chiefs fan. The wins that you have, they don't really feel like wins. And the loss that you have, you feel kind of dignified in it. You tell that teacher, no, I don't want to take your stinking math course. It's going to do nothing for me but add to my homework load. Yes, the Chiefs did lose a game. They lost to the Buffalo Bills, a team that is 9-2 this season. Everything is kind of ambiguous as far as being a Chiefs fan this season is concerned. And I took snippets from 3 different articles that I found in the Arrow Headlines portion of Arrowhead Pride this morning that I think all give us each one of them gives us a little something different about what yesterday's game means. The first one is this snippet from 3 takeaways from the Chiefs' 30-27 win over the Panthers, making sense of what happened on the road against Carolina on Sunday by Peter Sweeney. Quote, It had not been pretty on either side of the ball, and we'll get to that. But the Chiefs had a 27-16 lead over the Panthers with 2:42 to go in the third quarter. For a moment, it felt like the club had finally found a way to win comfortably against an inferior opponent. But that wasn't to be. The Panthers rallied back with 2 fourth-quarter scores as Kansas City punted the ball away on 2 straight possessions. After Carolina converted a game-tying 2-point try, it was up to Mahomes to put the team on his back and do it again. On 1st and 10 from about midfield with less than a minute remaining, the quarterback glanced downfield and saw the left side open. After evading a pass rusher, Mahomes sprinted down the field, sprinted for the first down, then skillfully juked his way around wide receiver Justin Watson's block for a 33-yard scramble, and the Chiefs and to get the Chiefs into field goal range. Now, why is this important? Why do I bring this little snippet of this article from Peter Sweeney onto the channel? Well, just this. The margin of victory in the NFL is very close. The margin of victory, the average margin of victory in the NFL is, I believe, much less than a touchdown possession. I don't know it for a fact, but go with me here. In these games, any game where the win is going to be decided by less than a touchdown, who do you trust to get that done? Is it Patrick Mahomes? Because he has done that so very many times before. Indeed, it is. And the Chiefs have enough parts, enough pieces at different positions to be able to be in any game. Will they? Time will tell. They have been. Will they be in position to win any game remaining on their schedule? I know where I would put my money. The next article. So the importance of that first one is the best player in football still resides in Kansas City, even if his house is not quite as safe as we would hope with our Midwest charm. The next article, Andy Reid becomes third coach with 19 or more 10-win seasons. From Mike Florio. Unfortunately, from Mike Florio. The Chiefs moved to 10-1 with a 30-27 win over the Panthers. Per the NFL, the victory gave Coach Andy Reid his 19th season with 10 or more wins. He trails Bill Belichick and Hall of Famer Don Shula, who have 20 seasons with 10 or more wins. Reid also has won 10 or more games for 10 straight seasons. That's second only to Belichick, who did it an uncanny 17 times from 2003 to 2019. Why do I bring this little tidbit up? Well, Andy Reid knows how to win. And sometimes there are games where knowing how to win is knowing how not to lose. And no one wants to hear that. But in the playoffs, what it comes down to is knowing how to win and knowing how not to lose. You have to have both sides of that coin. That is why decisions are so important in the playoffs. And you've got a guy in Andy Reid who has made a lot of decisions and a lot of right decisions during the course of his NFL career. So just keep that in your back pocket. With 10 wins already this season, as the article so deftly states from the genius Mike Florio, they're probably in the playoffs. Already, 10 wins is kind of the floor as to what it is that gets you in to the playoffs. So they're there now. So you have, in the playoffs, the best player in the world and the best coach that's calling them today. Okay, great. But you still almost lost to the freaking Panthers. You won, but did it feel that way? Well, Andy Reid gave passionate speech after Chiefs' close win versus Panthers from Andrew Garcia. In a season full of dramatic endings for the Kansas City Chiefs, Week 12 delivered came to another. What is that? Week 12 delivered came to another harrowing conclusion when the defending Super Bowl champions defeated the Carolina Panthers on a walk-off field goal by kicker Spencer Schrader. After the game, Chiefs head coach Andy Reid had the full attention of his team in the locker room and gave a passionate speech that reminded Kansas City's players that every win matters. Now, why do I bring that into things? Well, simply this. That game kind of felt like a loss as a fan, didn't it? Andy Reid knows that game kind of felt like a loss to the players as well. That game was coming off of a loss. That game was coming off of a performance for the Chiefs where they were almost undoubtedly as amped up as they had been for anything since, say, week 2, and they lost that one. So to come out and win is a big deal emotionally for a football team, psychologically for a football team. And Andy Reid wants to make sure that these guys know, look, every win is important, but I'm being passionate in this speech because you shouldn't really be happy about this one. So even the team knows. Now, to put further context onto this, look, last year at this time, the Chiefs had lost to the Lions 21-20, the Broncos 24-9, and the Eagles 21-17. By this time, last season, the Chiefs had lost 3 games, including a super embarrassing 24-9 drubbing by the Broncos. In 2022, by the 11th game of the season, the Chiefs had lost to the Colts, which was a head-scratcher, and the Bills 24-20, an understandable loss. In 2019, the Chiefs had lost by the 11th game. The Chiefs had lost to the Colts 19-13, not a good loss. The next week to the Texans 31-24. 2 weeks later to the Packers 31-24. And finally, you skip one more week and you lost to the Titans 35-32. Many of you remember that game. That was bad. That was the moment I thought maybe Patrick Mahomes was turning back into a pumpkin during that game. 4 losses in 2019. Now, you are astute. 2022, 2023, 2022, and 2019. What do those seasons have in common? A Super Bowl ring at the end of them. So, all 3 of those years, the Kansas City Chiefs were worse off by this point than they are this season. And each one of them, the Broncos last year, the Colts in 22, and the Titans and the Colts in 2019. And I believe even the Packers was not a good loss back in 2019. Those were all Super Bowl winning seasons. So, the question raises, yeah, but we're still not watching great football. It doesn't feel like we're watching a great football team, despite the fact that all 3 of the rings the Kansas City Chiefs are wearing on their hands came from seasons that looked worse at this point in time than the 2024 season does. Than does the 2024 season. But we're not comparing the Chiefs to the Chiefs of old. This Kansas City Chiefs team is not going to be playing the 2019 Kansas City Chiefs team. They're playing the other teams in the league today. So who are the Super Bowl favorites? Maybe you want to say it's the Bills. The Bills who beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, They lost 23-20 to the Texans, a loss that looks decent but not great. The Texans are hitting the skids. They also lost 35-10 to the Ravens. 35-10 to the Ravens. That was a loss. Well, okay, right there. What about the Ravens? The Ravens, maybe they're the Super Bowl favorite. They were October's flavor of the month. They've lost to the Steelers 18-16. They've lost to the Browns 29-24. They've lost to the Raiders 26-13. Now, the Raiders, I think, is actually not that bad of a loss. I think the Raiders are a very plucky team. And obviously, they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs 27-20. That's 4 losses. 4 real losses. The Chiefs have but 1. Maybe you're just thinking about the Super Bowl, however. Maybe you're saying, okay, well, the Chiefs can get to the Super Bowl. They can make it through the gamut of AFC teams and find themselves in the Super Bowl. But what are the odds this team wins that game? Well, who are the prohibitive favorites in the NFC? Is it the Eagles? They're 9-2. They lost to the Falcons 22-21, and they lost to the Bucs 33-16. Both of those are bad losses. Both of those are teams the Kansas City Chiefs have already beaten this season. Oh, I see. It's the Lions, the other team in the NFL with just 1 loss, the other team in the NFL with 10 wins by this point, and they've been blowing people out. They've been destroying teams. Surely they are the favorites to win the Super Bowl. Well, they too lost to the Buccaneers by the score of 20-16. Now, still, it's just 1 loss. If this were the college football playoffs, however, do you think they would grade a loss to the Buffalo Bills as better or worse than a loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Now, I do believe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will ultimately be a playoff team. I think that's a team that's going to... Actually, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't speak out of turn. I have no idea what their record is right now. But I thought when we played them, that's the type of team that it takes to get to the playoffs. Maybe not to the NFC Championship game, but that looked to me like a wild card team. A good team. A team that you probably have to beat in order to get to the Super Bowl. Maybe, just maybe, here is the stark reality. The stark reality is we watch the Kansas City Chiefs. All of it. We watch the left tackle and the right tackle, and we watch Najee Johnson out there on the field. Earlier in the season, we were critiquing the linebacking core. The linebackers seemed to be off. We watch every snap to see if George Karlaftis can finally get back to turning the corner, if he can finally get back to find a little bit of bend. We don't watch every snap of the Eagles. We don't watch every snap of the Lions. Probably, if you went to Lions creators on YouTube, I don't know what they call themselves. I'm not familiar with any of their channels, but probably they have some griping to do. Probably it was nuclear meltdown after that 20-16 loss against the Buccaneers. Maybe it's just this. This is what a really good football team looks like. It might not be what an historic football team looks like, but it is what a really good football team looks like. Last year's Kansas City Chiefs, not historic. Good team, good enough to win the Super Bowl, and they did. I would not have said at any point in time, that's an elite team. That's a lot how this season so far feels. And there were times in that 2019 season, if you really care to think back, coming off of the AFC Championship game loss to those who shall not be mentioned, there were times in that 2019 season watching Patrick Mahomes put up all these stats, watching all these fantastic high-flying wins, where you were watching some of these losses, and I guarantee you found yourself thinking, well, that sure was nice. That sure was nice. We had a run. I never thought in my life I'd see the Kansas City Chiefs win 2 playoff games in a single season. There we were, a single snap away, a single misguided snap away from the Super Bowl itself. A Super Bowl that I think the Kansas City Chiefs would have won. And that was, in those moments, filling and fulfilling enough as a football fan, because I never thought we'd see it. It was phenomenal just to have a quarterback that was going to be mentioned among the best in the league. If you think back, I guarantee you felt that way. Here we are, having been spoiled, so spoiled, by so many wins, by so many fantastic teams, that when we have a really good football team, and the NFL this year seems to be comprised of bad football teams and really good football teams, not a whole lot of stuff in the middle. We have one of the really good football teams. We're watching every weekend one of the really good football teams. One of the few teams that if you were to have to bet, the Kansas City Chiefs are one of the few teams on whom you would place your money, place your wager. That's what it is. This is just what a really good football team looks like. Not an historic team. Not an elite team. There might not be many elite teams. Maybe the Lions. I could see you making the argument for the Lions because of some of the margin of victory. But when you lose to the Buccaneers 20-16, you've got 6 games left. Do you think they'll go 16-1? I doubt it. Maybe, but I doubt it. Anyway, guys, I think we're just watching a really good football team. And this is just what a really good football team in the NFL, with all of the parity involved, looks like. That's all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week, and I hope to have you back for the next one.